4th edition of the Writing Show at the Spartanburg County Public Library. My name is Betsy Teeter, and I'm Executive Director of the Hub City Writers Project. You have a bio sheet on these esteemed panelists, but let me introduce them. To my right is Wanda Jewell. She is Executive Director of the Southern Independent Booksellers Alliance, which is headquartered in Columbia, South Carolina. Next to her is Rich Rennicks, who lives up in Asheville. He's a freelance book marketer and has worked at bookstores, including Malprops. And next to Rich is Eric Svenson, who is the Southern sales rep for HarperCollins, who is a third-generation bookseller. And although he travels all over the country, he makes his home in Inman, South Carolina, which is super cool. I would like to get us started by talking a little bit about the beginnings of the book marketing process. You've written a book. You found a publisher, perhaps? Eric Svenson, tell us when the book marketing process begins. You're selling books to bookstores all up down the East Coast and over to Texas. What happens after a writer signs a contract?
Well, for the sales rep,
Yes.
and the marketing, publishing, publicity side of it, it's months before on sale. For example, I've got a flyer that you can pick up over there. It shows the marketing campaign for Greg Isles, a book we're publishing, Natchez Burning, at the end of this month. We've been working on that since last August. It began that long ago. We're building up fan bases, we're collecting emails, we're making Facebook blasts, just trying to build up the demand, the interest, the excitement, which is, I think, the most important thing for us when we're trying to market a book is we're trying to find the audience and to alert them to this opportunity that's coming out and to get them excited and start word of mouth.
And that means social media? Does that mean meeting with bookstores as well?
Social media, bookstores, bloggers, Twitter, LinkedIn, what's the one where my wife loves so much, where she finds recipes, Pinterest, right? Anywhere we can try to find the reader, the audience for this book, we're going to go. We're going to beat the grounds until we found everybody we can to launch this book into the world.
Good. And Rick, sometimes a publisher will call you and just drop one of these books in your hands and says to you, Rich, how are we going to find an audience for this book? What do you do?
It depends on when they call me and drop it in my hands. I usually work with smaller publishers, so 6 months ahead of time, that's 2 seasons a year, smaller publishers can give about 6 months attention to the marketing of the book. The editor will give far longer. And that's when you start planning. It sort of depends what the author has done. I think you said in the first question, when do you start marketing the book? It's not when you finish writing it, it's when you begin writing it. You should have your website, you should have however you communicate with the world. Some people use Facebook, some people use Twitter. A lot of publicists online say you must have a blog, you must have this, you must have that. You don't need any one thing. It should be what works for you. Pinterest, if all you do is write about, spelling, maybe Pinterest isn't the right place. But if you're in Civil War history, Pinterest would probably be good. You can share lots of pictures, all kinds of stuff that's visual. So, let's see, your original question. It depends on the type of book. Most of our work is fiction, and there are 2 major things that depend where we go with the book. Where the author lives in relation to where the book is set, and what's the subject matter of the book. So if someone's written, a Civil War book, but they live in Alaska, publisher's not going to be too happy because it's very expensive to fly someone down for events down here. So then we would have to go and look at online and advertising and magazines, things like that, because it's not really practical to try to do a 12-city tour or something like that. You can do 12-city tours.
That's good, and we'll get back to some of that. Wanda Jewell knows every bookseller within 1,000 miles of where we're sitting right here. So she knows just about every story about marketing books there is. Somewhere along the line, if you have written a book, you're going to be approaching a bookstore. Now, sometimes your publisher does that to you, but increasingly the publisher does not. You are doing it yourself. What I wonder if you would get us started by talking about cardinal mistakes that a writer can make when approaching a bookstore, and then what works. How do you get your reading? How do you get your books in a bookstore?
Well, my first piece of advice to anybody who wants to be a writer is to first be a reader. I don't think you can be a good writer if you don't read a lot of different kinds of books. And if you're reading books, you should be getting them from your local independent bookstore. I can tell you it's not uncommon for the first time a bookseller meets a person who lives in their town and comes in with a book they published and says, "I'm a local writer, will you carry my book?" And this bookseller's never seen this person. That's a problem. If the first time you're going to show up in their store is to ask them to do something for you, their thought is going to be, well, where have you been? How come I don't know you? How come you don't shop here? How come you haven't at least come by and introduced yourself as a local writer? So my best piece of advice is you should be that person that your bookseller knows your name. When you walk in, they're like, "Hello, how's the writing going? How are you doing? Where are you? How many chapters have you finished? Can I read one?" And they want to be invested in your success. But if you've written it and published it and never spoken to them, but to come in and say, "Will you order 50 copies of my book?" It's disheartening for them. And they're looking for partners, and they want to see you succeed, but they want you to be invested in their success. So the best way to get into a bookstore is to shop there, is to invest in them, and then when you come by and need them to invest in you, they're going to be delighted to do it.
That's good. Yes,
Let me add and echo what Wanda said. I spoke with the director of marketing at HarperCollins earlier this week and told her what I was going to be doing tonight. And I said, give me one thing, one bit of advice that I can give a new or emerging author. And she said, what Wanda said, she said, get to know your local booksellers. Contact, search out, Google search any independent bookstore you can within a 100-mile radius of your home and befriend them. Let them know you're there. Be a friend of the store, support the store, and they'll support you. Exactly what she said.
I mean, if you have a local writers group, all of you should go by. You should talk to the store. Can we meet here? Can we meet here after hours? Can we meet here early in the morning? If they have a coffee shop, can we come in and, can we do events where we read our work out loud to each other? Can we invite? I mean, there's a million ways that they can assist you. I mean, there's books here. Anna has books here today on writing, and every bookstore in 1,000 miles has books about writing. And if you're in there buying those books, they're going to say, "Oh, do you write?" There's a partnership happening there, and that's where you want to start being a writer. Is not after the book has been published. I'll tell you another quick thing. Create Space. There's many companies out there like Create Space, but CreateSpace is owned by Amazon. You know, as a writer, that's something you should know. And so if you're going to have CreateSpace publish your book, which is an Amazon company, and then you're going to sell your book on Amazon through their services, and then you're going to go to your local bookstore and say that I want to do a signing at your store, they're not inclined to do that. You know, enough money has gone into the pockets of Amazon already. Most independent booksellers are not interested in contributing to that. And it's an easy thing to find out. You know, it's easy to talk to a bookseller and say, if I'm going to self-publish, who should I talk to? You know, if I'm going to look at some kind of hybrid publishing, who would you recommend? You know, but I mean, the one thing Amazon can't do is host an event for you, a local event. But if you're putting all your money in Amazon's basket, the store's not inclined to order those books. That's just the bottom line. So doing your homework ahead of time will help you help yourself. And I am only an 800, well, I don't have an 800 number anymore. We don't even do that anymore, do we? I'm only a phone call away, an email away, and I'm happy to talk to anybody, any day. If you're thinking about doing something, please let me or someone like me help you before you spend a lot of money.
Just if I can follow up on one thing Wanda said, you don't have to do that for every single bookstore you want to carry your books. I mean, it's physically impossible. But it's very important to know people at your local bookstore. One thing that SEBA, the Southern Booksellers, do is they have an email listserv. It's very active. Booksellers are always talking to each other across the state lines. And if someone likes a book in Asheville, North Carolina, they might get on that listserv and sing his praises, and suddenly booksellers in 7 or 8 states know all about it. And some of them, many of them hopefully, will want that book in their store. So you don't, when I used to work in the bookstore up in Malaprops, I used to get people calling me up and say, I've written this book, I'm a local author, it'd be great if you carry it. And say, well, where are you from? I live in Tallahassee. Well, that's in Florida. But, yeah, but it's regional, I'm a regional author. It's not, you know, you have to be realistic. You might have a book that is perfect for someplace that you don't live, but start with your local bookstore. When you have friends there and they like your books, talk to them. Where do you think might be good for this book? And they can suggest other bookstores, they can suggest other booksellers by name, and that'll give you someplace to start from.
Yeah, when we publish a book in Hub City, we send a marketing survey to the writer, and we want to know, where did you go to college? What city have you lived in? Where do your best friends live? And that's where you start with a book tour. Eric, do book tours work? Talk to me about book tours. When you all send an author out on a book tour, what's that like out there?
I love book tours. I do. I'm a former retail bookseller, so it's always nice to meet the authors when they came in. And now working on the publishing side, it's nice to be able to provide authors to these great stores. Sometimes these events don't work in selling the volume of, a huge quantity of books maybe the first time through, but what you're getting is you're building relationships, you're building bridges with these booksellers. The booksellers are your best friends. They are, their job, their reason for being is to put books in the hands of the right books in the people, the right books in the hands of the right people. And Harper does an awful lot of book tours, regional tours, national tours, and some are big rock star events where the author comes in and there's 400 people. And there's a line out the door, a presidential signing. Jimmy Carter was touring recently. You get those, but then you also get these. We've had a local Harper author who came. I read on his blog the other day that he did a tour stop in Knoxville, and only 2 people showed up, so they decided to go out to dinner together. And it was great, and he really touched those 2 people. And those 2 people, even though he may only sold a book or 2 that night, those 2 people are going to tell stories about that forever. They're going to be they're going to be evangelical for that author in the marketplace, and that's going to sell books. So big tour or small tour, big event, small event, it's all about reaching, building a core of people who will be your advocate out there as the author.
And Eric, as long as you have the microphone, do you have an example of an author who has done this well, some things that they might have done to boost themselves along a book tour?
I can't think of one right off the top of my head under like that. But I can tell you that there are always, like Wiley Cash.
Okay.
Wiley Cash, he was here last summer for y'all to do he was a guest speaker at one of your writing conferences.
Right.
He's a Gastonia born and raised author, and we tour him throughout the South and nationally now. Wiley does these great videos that he sends out in advance. He's an active blogger. He does website things. He does charity events. He more than anybody I can think of right now, he does everything he can to reach. He's the guy who took the two people out to dinner. And I didn't say it first, but that was Wiley. Wiley Cash, he's a pro because he has no shame. He has no modesty. I mean, he doesn't care if 1 or 100 shows up. He wants to connect with you and talk to you about his book. And that's the best thing an author can do, whether it's bringing candy to the events or bringing something to give away to everybody who buys the book, or a value add kind of situation where you buy this, I'll give you that, or you buy one for your sister, I'll give you a third. Wiley is a pro, and I would recommend if you don't know Wiley Cash, try to find him online and see all the things that he does for his books and for HarperCollins, and I think he'd be a great role model.
Why do you look like you're something to say there too?
I just wanted to add that it's a very incestuous community. It's important to know that. It's not just incestuous among the authors. I mean, believe me, they talk, but among the booksellers too. And as an author, if you have the opportunity to tour stores, I've had authors who show up at a bookstore and they're mad about where the table's put. They want it moved. They're mad about how the sign is done. They want it fixed. But they're mad, when they get there. And those are always the ones that you're lucky if you have two people come and the author kind of huffs and puffs. And there's nothing more embarrassing for a bookseller. I mean, there's a lot of, they work hard to make these events happen. Nobody wants it to be successful more than they do. I think the author wants it to be successful as much as they do, but not more than they do. But the author that shows up and is kind and treats the staff well and is okay with whatever happens, talks to the staff. I mean, I've had many an event where an author and a frontline bookseller will sit and talk for 45 minutes because no one's come. But that bookseller then hand sells that book, hand over fist in that store, sells 50 copies after the author's left over 3 months because the guy was so easy and agreeable and appreciative and understood the value of that 45 minutes with that frontline bookseller who talks to readers every single day. And if you can understand that every encounter is an opportunity to sell yourself, which is what really sells your book. I do a trade show and I tell every author who comes, they're like, what do you want me to talk about? I said, I want you to talk about your book. And I want you to be endearing and charming. And when my booksellers leave, I want them to leave with, that's a nice guy. I would like to sell his book. Because that's what sells the book. I mean, Greg Iles has written a great book. It's going to be big. It's a great book. One of my favorites in a long time. But Greg Iles is a really nice guy. So I'm glad a really nice guy wrote a really great book, because I would not be so excited were he not a nice guy.
This book, by the way, is Natch is Burning, published by HarperCollins. And Eric, you're going to get us a couple boxes of signed books, which we will have starting June what? June No, May something.
On sale is April 29th.
Oh, right, okay. So, awesome book. Rich,
Just say,
fill in here.
the last word about those events where 2 people showed up. Isabel Allende's first book tour in the United States. She was in Utah at one of the best bookstores in the country. 2 people showed up. And look where she ended up.
What else can an author do besides book a bookstore? Whether their publisher does it or they do it themselves. What else should an author be doing? Rich, you're probably working directly with authors. What do you tell them to do? Social media is a big part of it.
Social
Let's talk
media
about that.
is a part of it. I mean, social media is a useful part of it. It probably plays to authors' introverted tendencies. You can just talk a little bit or a lot. You don't have to broadcast to the world or feel like you're broadcasting to the world. You can just converse with people you know, people at your local bookstore, people in your neighborhood, people you met at a conference, and the conversations just get bigger because they're public. And just talk about your work, talk about your research, talk about whatever you're interested in. Because if you're trying to fake it and talk about vampires because they're trendy right now, no one's going to be interested if you don't have passion for it. One thing I was just going to say about the events, for a lot of publishers, it's not a one-book deal. They take the longer-term view. It's harder now to get signed, to get a book contract for just a one-off. Publishers want to see that there's a relationship, that you are likely to produce more work that's worth publishing, and that you have a good personality, because a lot of, we know a lot of people don't. But a lot of the reason for a book tour, as Wanda said, is to get to know the booksellers as much as sell books to an audience. Your first tour, 5, 6 people might be a good night. Publishers will often send you back to the same store, 2 years later when your next book comes out, and you think, oh my God, no, don't make me go there. It was so embarrassing last time. And there are 40 people there. Because you won over the booksellers, they've been selling your books for 2 years, and now you didn't know it, but you've got a big fan base in whatever town that is. So definitely don't try to avoid those early small events. You've got to do that. It's worth it in the long term.
Wanda, let's talk about the reality of being a self-published author also. A lot of bookstores will only take you on consignment. Some bookstores actually want to charge you to put their books on the shelves. What is the reality out there for a bookseller, and why do they tell self-publishers that? There must be reasons.
Well, I think the main, the whole industry is turned on its head. There's disruption everywhere. So it's sort of the wild, wild west out there. That's kind of what's happening right now with publishing and book selling and the whole industry. And booksellers, like everyone else, they have a rhythm to their workday. Every day is different, and every day there's new decisions to be made. But there are some things that they've been doing certain ways for a long time. And one of them is ordering books. You have titles you want, you put together a list, you place an order, they come in, they're in boxes, you open them, you process them, you put them on the shelves, you sell them. New books are good. It's a what's that called? A flow chart. Yes, a flow chart, thank you, a flow chart of work. So then you have this self-published person who comes in and they've got one title. They don't know what the discount is. No, you have to go order it from this website. No, you can't return it. And I want to do an event. Well, what you've basically done is taken the flow, you've disrupted it totally. They can't just order it like they're used to. They can't get the discount they're used to. They can't get anything they're used to They don't really know you. The book doesn't really have an audience, and they're spending time that they would be ordering and selling in their flow. What they do well and what they know has been interrupted, and they've now turned their attention to this one book from this one little place they've never heard of, by this person they've never heard of, for this price that is often you shouldn't hear of, at a discount that hardly makes it worth it for them. And they're talking to someone who has no idea what they're talking about. So then they're like, oh, you're costing me money. You're taking my time. Selling your book is too expensive, is the bottom line. And that's why you find they'll consign it, you can pay them and they'll do it, because they're trying to figure out a way to stay in business. Bottom line, they won't be there if they can't make enough dollars to pay the staff, pay the rent, pay for the books, and pay for everything else involved to keep the store open. So that's what's happening, and they come in every day. Before, when you had sort of the vanity publishers, and it was sort of separate, and they sold their books to their family or to their high school or to their fraternity brothers. They didn't try to sell through a bookstore. But my booksellers report an author calling and coming in every single day, at least one, with a book. They don't know the terms. You have to order it this way. You have to get it that way. They don't have the financial wherewithal to deal with it. And that's what you're running up against.
I would also add, don't be afraid to do the consignment deal. It's, don't perceive it to be a failure or a lack of desire. Because speaking from the Harper side or from anybody else, I mean, it is awful hard to sell books from my warehouse or your garage, right? It's got to be somewhere where people can see it or people can sell it for you. It may not be the terms you dreamed about, but if your book is occupying space, if you get in 5, 6, 8 copies faced out in a bookstore where somebody's going to talk about your book to anybody who comes in the door and encourage them to purchase it, that's well worth doing a consignment deal, in my opinion.
And a consignment deal that moves. If you put a consignment book in and all of a sudden that bookseller's calling you and ordering 10 more and calling you and ordering 10 more, and Eric comes by from HarperCollins, they're like, look at this little book, we can't keep it in the store. Then HarperCollins is like, oh, well maybe we should talk to these people.
We've done that a lot.
You did that with Pete the Cat.
That's right.
Eric discovered Pete the Cat.
No, I didn't.
Karen discovered Pete the Cat.
They gave it to me to deliver.
And just to be clear, consignment is not a dirty word. A lot of smaller publishers who don't have the distribution of larger ones, they have consignment agreements with a number of independent bookstores across the country, and you'll go in and you'll see, 12 of their books in a bay, and they don't really tell people that they've paid to have those books in all those stores, but they do. It's worth it.
And one of the things that we've discovered is you need to make an appointment before you go see a bookseller. Don't just don't drop in on them. That is the worst thing you can do.
You wouldn't drop in on your in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that they are busy people and that you want 10 minutes of their time up 2 weeks from now, and that's the best way to do it. Don't you think? Okay.
And I want to talk about the social media for 1 second.
Let's
if
do
I
it.
can.
Talk about social media and then we'll go to break.
If you're not comfortable with social media, don't pretend you are. So that's okay. It's probably a good thing. You probably got some grandkids. You can get comfortable if you want to, but if you're not, that's okay. But if you are, you want to find your tribe. That's the goal of social media, is to find your people. The people who care about the things you care about, and the people who want to read the things you write about. And the way you find those people, and y'all have so many opportunities to do this, from the time you decide to write a book, and you say, you know what, I'm going to write a book about my grandmother. How many of you have a grandmother? Okay, that's the beginning of your tribe. Okay? And would you read a book about somebody's grandmother? What kind of grandmother would it have to be? And this is free research. These are thousands of people reading this and responding to you because you've engaged them. Do you want it to be short stories? Would you like long chapters? What do you like? What kind of book do you like to read? Do you like to read something that moves along at a quick pace or that has a lot of description? This is all information for you, and you are engaging people who are like, oh, this person, and then pretty soon you've got a first chapter, or you've got a couple of paragraphs. Anybody that'd like to read this, email me. I'll send it to you. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'm getting ready to do a cover. What do you think the cover should look like? What about these pictures? Do you like these images, A or B, C or D? You can engage with them from the first notion that you even have that you may write a book. Engage that community to find those people that by the time the book is ready, they're waiting. They help pick the cover. They help pick the name of the grandmother. They help pick the dog's name. They help decide whether it was a dog or a cat. And they are invested and they care. And that's what you want to build. And that's what social media lets you do that we paid thousands of dollars to find out before.
That's it.
What is it?
Figure out your audience, target the audience, and start that word of mouth. The word of mouth is the thing that you can't buy it. I mean, you can't hardly buy it. It's the best thing out there for promoting your book is somebody being out there talking about, I love this book and I love it so much I want you to read it too. It's the best advertising and marketing we can do.
Well, we're in a great panel. Let's have a quick round of applause for all of you.